there has been a nuclear accident in the Soviet Union, and the Soviets have admitted that it happened.
In 1986, the Soviet nuclear power plant in the heart of the Ukraine went into meltdown. The still radioactive core was sealed up with concrete, and a 30-kilometer exclusion zone was erected. But what's it like there today? Welcome to WatchMojo's Top 5 Facts. Today we'll be looking into the aftermath of the Chernobyl catastrophe. Number 5. Nobody knows how many people the meltdown has killed. More than 100 nuclear plant workers and first responders were killed in the weeks following the disaster, but we have no idea how many other people have died.
25-year-old Tamara, school teacher and mother, just diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
With the exception of one rare type of thyroid cancer, it's impossible to tell which fatal cases of cancer were caused by radiation and which weren't. So estimates are all over the place. The UN believes that 4,000 people have been killed by radiation poisoning, while Greenpeace claims that 93,000 deaths are the direct result of the meltdown. It's also estimated that 2.7 million people were affected in some way by the meltdown. This includes both the less serious medical complications and the 350,000 people that needed to be relocated.
The people of Pripyat will end the day in the homes of strangers. Of course, so will the radioactive dust on their hair, their clothes, their bodies.
Number 4. Apparently, humans are worse for animals than Chernobyl's radiation.
So you've got like three-eyed wolves and like five-legged bears that are in Chernobyl now.
Since humans have largely left the exclusion zone, the population of animals has skyrocketed. The population of many animals is now greater than it was before the accident, and the wolf population is about 7 times that of nearby areas. So basically, the research indicates that chronic radiation is less of a problem to animals than the pressures of human habitation. Makes you feel proud to be a Homo sapien. However, there are a lot of negative effects in many individual animals. 4 to 6% of mice are born with birth defects. Also, plant life is struggling. Biodiversity is about 50% of similar nature reserves, but more on that shortly. So it's not all sunshine and giant non-mutant catfish.
You can see these catfish are quite normal. Nothing wrong with them. No mutations visible. They're just huge because they don't have any predators.
Number 3. The exclusion zone is populated by radioactive grandmothers. More than 1,000 people defiantly returned to Chernobyl after the meltdown. Today, the remaining resettlers are quite old, and most of them are women. But many of these little old grandmothers believe that they made the right choice returning to the exclusion zone. They think this not only because it's their ancestral home, but also because they already survived Stalin's genocide by starvation and watched their relocated friends and relatives end up poor and hungry in urban areas.
And she said to me when I asked her the obvious, "Radiation doesn't scare me, starvation does."
These women are relatively healthy, and they live simple lives, relying on farming soil that will be radioactive for the next 20,000 years.
In this wasteland, her animals are all the company she needs.
Number 2. Chernobyl is home to zombie trees. The Red Forest is one of the most radioactive places on Earth. It gained the name because the trees turned a rusty shade of red just after the accident.
And if you go in there, you're going to die.
Today, the trees have become green again, but trees that die there take decades to decompose. There are still standing trees that died at the meltdown 29 years ago. This is because the radiation kills the fungus and bacteria that would normally break down the trees. And insects that eat plant matter choose to live in areas of the exclusion zone that are less radioactive than the forest. Recent dry summers have sparked fears of forest fires, which could send radioactive smoke to the large city of Kiev, only 68 miles from the exclusion zone. Number 1. A vacation at Chernobyl is less harmful than an X-ray.
You guys ever heard of Chernobyl?
Yeah.
That's where the nuclear disaster happened.
Yes. Have you heard of extreme tourism?
You're incredible.
Who's coming with Paul to Chernobyl?
Yup, you can even go to the exclusion zone on your vacation. And it only costs about $380 for a 2-day tour of the site of history's biggest nuclear disaster. Is it creepy? Yes. Is it exploitative? Maybe. But it does seem to be pretty safe. The radiation that you would be exposed to is less than you would get if you went to the doctor for an X-ray. For context, nuclear power plants are considered safe if their employees are exposed to less than 100 microsieverts of gamma radiation per day, while a pelvic X-ray, for example, could expose you to 700 microsieverts. According to the tour operators, during a vacation in the exclusion zone, your body would only absorb about 5 to 7 microsieverts.
No, it's not a romantic getaway.
So, how about you? Would you take a 2-day Chernobyl tour? For more former Soviet superpower top 10s and radioactive top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Tell me if you see something moving in water.